Welcome to the Intuitive Therapist Podcast with Janis R. Cohen, therapist, clairvoyant, empath, and medium. Listen in as she takes a no-nonsense deep dive into real human struggles and how to resolve them. Janis will share channeled information from her spirit guide team, as well as the angels and archangels, to help you master your emotional, physical, financial, and spiritual destiny. And now, Janis R. Cohen.
Hey y'all, this is Janis Cohen, the Intuitive Therapist here on the Intuitive Therapist Podcast. I think a lot about a lot of things. The mind fascinates me, and it can help you either create or destroy your life, either of which comes down to what you give it permission to do. You are in control of your mind, not the other way around. I'm a really huge fan of looking at my life. Are you? One of the most important life skills that you can have is the ability to debrief with yourself all the time, day in and day out. And if you don't, then you can't really identify why things are working or why they're not in your life. Debriefing is an essential practice to do if you want to achieve the things that you want to achieve in life. You've got to, at some point, review your choices, your beliefs, your actions, your thoughts. But do you do this? Maybe sometimes, all the time, not at all? Today I want to talk to you about the sneaky things in life that get in your way, things that you might not even think about that chip away at your dreams, little by little. That's why today's topic is called, What is Killing You Softly? You see, these things operate stealthily, like a great white shark coming up from the deep. You don't realize he's there until it's too late and you get taken down into the depths for good. When you look at your life, the things you've wanted to accomplish, how long it took you to accomplish these things, or if you didn't accomplish them at all, what would you say were your biggest challenges and obstacles that got in the way? I always encourage you to practice radical honesty. So pause this recording, get some paper out, and write down what were the biggest challenges and obstacles that got in your way of achieving what you wanted to achieve. Why weren't you able to accomplish those things, but you're able to accomplish others? Take a moment and write the answers to that down. One of my most favorite books, truly one of the ones that has changed my life, was a book that I read about 7 years ago. And it's part of a trilogy written by one of the most prolific and amazing authors, Steven Pressfield. And the book is called The War of Art. There is no other book that I know of that examines and defines what resistance is better than this one book. It shook me to my core, and I couldn't pretend any longer after I had read it that I wasn't aware of how resistance shows up in my life after reading the book. And if you've given yourself the gift of reading it, your life will be forever changed as well. And you will not believe, I promise you, if you get this book, you will not be able to live one more moment in the same way that you've been living it, especially when you have goals to achieve, especially when you do a debrief. Pressfield calls you out on your bullshit, on your excuses, on your fears, on your doubts by explaining the ruthlessness and the pervasiveness and the power of resistance. It is deadly, toxic, and powerful. And in fact, it's one of the most powerful influencers in how much a person achieves in their life. It's magical. Resistance shows up when we're on the precipice of change, when we are about to level up in our lives, when we're about to truly change our lives and become the next level self. And I remember when I was writing my first book back in 2016, it took me a hell of a long time to get it done. And I didn't know why. Like, I really didn't pay attention to it. All I knew is that I kind of sparsely wrote Even though I had this really huge dream of being a published author, I had this dream. I just want to publish and write a book. And at the same time, also, I was giving a half-assed effort towards my private practice, only showing up when I had clients and really not doing any other work to build my business. Then one day I was perusing, of course, I was guided to do it. I was looking up some woman who was quite successful, and I was guided to this page, and here she was preaching about this book. She had a page on her website about this book and how it was a must read for anyone. I was guided to purchase it. I got it, and my life changed forever. I read it with fervor. It's a short and brutal read. It's only 130 pages, and some of the pages are a few sentences. That's how powerful this book is. But it slapped some sense into me. And to this day, when resistance shows up, I see it. I can't deny that it's there. And I have a choice in the moment. I either accept it and let it veer me off course, or I slay the shit out of it. It's that black and white. So after reading that book, I actually finished mine. I went to my office every day, and I wrote and wrote and wrote until I finished that book. What would have taken me over 2 years to finish it based on the trajectory that I was writing, I finished it in 6 months. The content in this book, in the Pressfield book, and my decision to face my resistance sped up my achievement. I was hell-bent and determined to kick resistance's ass and get my book done. It lit a fire in me. It showed me what I was denying. I stopped denying that all was well in my world, and I became uber focused on what I wanted my life to be. And I took note also on how I was coasting through my life without intention. Are you coasting through your life without real intention and focus? You see, I wasn't paying attention to the things that I needed to, and I became accountable to myself for the first real time in my life with the things that I said mattered to me. That's how powerful this book is. It changed me. It altered who I am and how I show up for myself and for the world. It changed my life. You see, resistance shows up as distractions, as anxiety, as doubt, as those thoughts in your head that tell you, yeah, you can do that later, or you should really catch up on that show that you haven't finished from last night. You only have 15 minutes left. You don't need to do this work. Or the laundry needs to get done. Look, go ahead. Yes, get up now. Go ahead and do that. And you can finish writing that letter or finish writing that book or wait to call that client or signing those papers. Just laundry needs to get folded or else, it's going to sit in the dryer. That's where we leave it. Or, you're probably, you're not going to be able to do what you want to do, right? You can't do this. So just accept that this is your life. It's not going to get any better. This is how it's going to be for the rest of your life. Your life isn't going to get any better. Your dreams are too big. Or you don't need to quit being an addict. You don't really need to look at how much pot you're smoking or how much porn you're looking at or how much you're drinking. You really don't. You're doing okay. You're managing it. It's not a problem yet. Does any of that relate to you? Does it sound familiar? Can you see how resistance shows up in your life? Resistance is going to chip away at you daily. And you'll think you don't know what this thing is that keeps you stuck or back or down, but it's resistance. It's the decay that will create a hole in the foundation of your life, and you're going to end up 5 or 10 years later looking back at your life and wondering what the fuck happened. Resistance, that's what resistance does. It sidetracks you. It derails you. It convinces you that You don't really need to keep doing what you're doing. That's how powerful it is. And you know what? You're going to feel like you're alone out in the middle of the ocean with no rescue in sight when you look back 5, 10 years from now and you're standing in the same place. That is resistance. It is the great white shark that lives in the depths of the ocean of your life and who comes out of nowhere and takes you down and keeps you there and convinces you, oh, you're exactly where you need to be. Don't want for any more. Don't wish for any more. This is how life is supposed to be. Only you pretend that you don't have any resistance and that you don't recognize when or how it shows up. If you look at your life and what you fail to complete each day, that is resistance. Think about when you go to approach doing something and all of a sudden you're sidetracked by social media, or you're hopping on your phone, or you're checking your hair, or you're, I don't know, going to do something else, whatever doing something else is, that is resistance. Is this making sense? You may say to yourself, oh, one more cookie, that's not going to hurt my diet. Or I don't need to do that rep with the exercise. Or you should really sleep in instead of going to work out. You can do that tomorrow. Or you don't need to make sure that you're on top of your money. You've got enough. You're paying your bills, right? You check it every now and then. Who needs savings anyway? Go live life. Don't pay attention to that thing. Don't do that thing that you know you need to do, that will lead you to ultimately the outcome that you want. Just save it for later, for tomorrow. It will be there for tomorrow. Making sense? Do you see how resistance is showing up in your life? See, your job, just like it was mine, is to figure out where and how it's showing up and deal with it so it doesn't get the best of you. You don't want to wind up, this is like I did. That's why I just kicked my butt. It was like I looked back on my life and I was stuck out in the dead of the night. And guess what? The resistant sharks were circling my boat. They were circling me. They were ready. They were ready to have their feeding frenzy. And that happens to you when you're not countering resistance and not following through with what is important for you to follow through so that you can step into the next level of your life. And also, resistance will show up when you're trying to cultivate self-integrity. And I've talked about this before. When you are trying to keep promises with yourself about your life, and so that you can feel good about who you are, so that you can develop self-respect, and only self-integrity will give you that. It's not about you following through with others. It's how you follow through with yourself. Resistance will show up, down, left, and right. It will say, you don't need to put that extra cookie away. You don't need to really call that guy. You don't really need to finish that social media post. You don't really need to blah, 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 blah. That's resistance. Figure out where and how it's showing up in your life. Deal with it. Because you don't want to wind up a year, 5 years, 10 years down the road, looking back at your life and going, oh my goodness, what the heck have I been doing with my life? Why am I still in the same place? Now let's talk about self-doubt for a bit. This is just as insidious as resistance. How often have you allowed your insecurities to get in the way of going for the things that you know you want in your life? I have been quite transparent about my own self-doubts because I truly believe that if I can't be real and transparent with you, then I'm not walking my talk. And I'm okay with being open like that because everybody's flawed. So I am no different. And I know that there are people out there who are struggling with what I struggle with. So it's important for me to be straight up with you. So I've been pretty transparent about my own self-doubts. over the years when doing this podcast. We all have them, like I said. We all doubt our ability to achieve what our hearts want to achieve at some points in our life, right? We can't avoid having doubt. There are indicators of how centered we are within ourselves. How doubtful are we of our ability to achieve our big dreams, right? And doubts also show up when we are on the precipice of achieving greatness as well. This is another form of resistance. Truth is that self-doubt is total falsehood. And self-doubt are the thoughts that we accept about ourselves when we haven't figured out how to deal with our fears about success and failure. Did you know that? I'm going to say it again. Self-doubt are the thoughts that we accept about ourselves when we haven't figured out how to deal with our fears about success and failure. Did you know that people don't just fear failure, they actually fear success too? Who will you be with more money? Can you handle more money? Will you blow it all? Are you comfortable with having money in the bank, saving it instead of spending it? Are you fiscally responsible? There are a lot of people out there who are terrified. They don't even realize it, that they're not comfortable of having money that allows them to feel safe financially. Maybe that's you. You hear all the time of these lotto winners win millions of dollars and they end up being poor right where they started because they feel too agitated to create a sense of safety by being smart with the money. They just blow it because it's there. Is that you? If you aren't good at these things now, when you become more financially wealthy, you will, just as resistance does, you will succumb to the lack of self-respect for yourself, right? Self-respect, and the lack of respect for money, and you're going to travel back in time to the days of struggle and desperation. You're going to go back to where you started from. You will undermine yourself unconsciously. So if you don't look at your self-doubts, if you don't bring them up to the surface and reality test them, then day by day, you're going to just assume that they are the ultimate truth and you will blindly accept them. What a shame. You must reality test all your thoughts, especially the negative ones. Anything, as I have said before, that you think that causes you to feel other than what you desire to feel is a lie. You have to challenge it. It's the poison that you have been drinking daily, and you will eventually render yourself immobile and create a self-fulfilling prophecy of failure. Do you realize that's what you're doing? When we believe something long enough, we call in evidence to convince us that what we believe is in fact the truth. People do this all the time. It's the reticular activating system that does this. For example, go try this. Say to yourself as you're driving to work or going somewhere, it doesn't matter where you're going, and tell your brain, you know what? I want to see white cars. All I see are white cars. Guess what? You're going to see more white cars than you ever imagined because you're programming your brain to focus on that thing. Okay? So wouldn't it be lovely to make a choice to focus on something that you really do want in your life rather than believing things that you don't? Right? So we can do this in both positive and negative ways. What about this piece? What about other people's opinions of you? How often have you let somebody else kill off your dream because one comment that discouraged you from taking a risk? How many times have you disclosed your dreams, your hopes to someone who is unhappy with who they are in their life How often have you disclosed your dreams and your hopes to the wrong person who can't hold space for you and who just shits all over them and who convinces you you're a fool for wanting more out of life? I just talked about this in a former episode recently. How often do you give your power away to others to determine how successful you become, to determine if your idea is worthy? I mean, think about it. Think about all the successful people. I keep thinking they give me the example of the Spanx lady. Do you realize she had this brilliant idea that changed the way women wore clothes? And she got turned around, rejected. I don't even know how many times, hundreds maybe times. Nobody would invest in this. And then finally someone did. She is a billionaire, this woman. And she believed in herself. She did not let anybody discourage her. She didn't speak to the wrong people. How often do you desire the approval of others or need the approval of others to do what your heart truly wants to do? How often do you let these people kill you softly? How often do you deny yourself the joys in life because you let somebody else influence your decision making? Day by day, your dreams and your motivation is going to be chipped away. And before you know it, 1 year, 5 years, or even 10 years from now, you're going to look back and you're going to wonder how it was that you're standing in the same place of your life, never leaving the desolate and unremarkable surroundings that you think you have found comfort in. I don't know who really needs to hear this today. Honestly, don't. But my guide spared no one's feelings today. That's kind of how they do it. They know I shoot straight. Somebody needs to hear this today. Somebody needs to hear some of it or all of it. Take a look at your life. Take a look at what is killing you softly day by day, killing your dreams, your self-confidence, your motivation to create a life you love. Look at it. Look at how you are actively choosing how to live your life and slay the shit out of them if they're not working for you. Make choices to change. Make choices to have different intentions. Be intentional about being intentional, right? Be honest with what you think on a daily basis. Pay attention to your thoughts. Don't let them just show up as if they're truth. And if the thoughts aren't helping you to get to the top of your life's mountain, then you have to consciously change them to ones that do. And get your energy behind those thoughts, right? You need to actively choose what you think, feel, believe, and behave every moment of every day. It's really cool to be able to do that, in all honesty. It's really cool to have the intention to be so aware of yourself, not kind of crazy aware, but just aware, and always be able to say to yourself, well, do I really want to choose that? Is that the means to the end for me? Is that the best choice for me? What are some other options? Hold on to your personal power. Don't let outside influences influence you to release what matters to you. Only allow outside influences to influence you if they support your dreams and where you want to go in your life. Be careful who you share your dreams with. Please be careful who you share your dreams with. Find people who believe in you. Take a look at what you allow to misdirect you and veer you off course. Correct that. Be so cognizant of the thoughts, the resistance showing up, that it becomes no match for you and your desires. Stay focused. Stay committed. And always tap into the big why in your life. When you're choosing to achieve something that to others, and maybe even to yourself, seems impossible. I talk about being able to create the unseen into the seen. You have a genius inside of you. You can do it. Do not let anybody dissuade you from that. Never let anything knock you off your certainty. And I promise you, when you're in your certainty like the Spanx lady, you can't be knocked off. It's only when you have the shadow of doubt. When you have doubt in there that people can knock you off your certainty. When you're certain, you don't look for approval from others. You just do. When you take that stance in life, you're never going to be vulnerable to dying a little bit each day or letting your dreams die each day. You're going to infuse new energy into your life, and you're going to look back in a year, 5 years, or even 10 years with pride, knowing that you face life head on with intention. And you became the great white shark in your life, destroying everything in the way of your lasting success. Ladies, I have to say, this Align program is going to help you with all of this. And it's so exciting for me to share this with you. If you're ready to live that life, to be happy, to create the changes that you've wanted to create, and create the unseen in your heart, hop over to my website, register your name, your email, download the free report, get on the wait list, and join me as founding members of this amazing pilot program called Aligned. I wish you a blessed day, a wonderful week, and as always, live intuitively.
Thanks for listening to The Intuitive Therapist. If you like what you heard, the best compliment you can give us is to share this podcast with a friend, and be sure to give us some stars and a favorable review at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen in.